Hello, my name is John Dodson. I'm a Richmond native and I'm an urban farmer. I reside in the north side of Richmond and welcome to Cordelia's Haven.
So, why do you farm? What led you to become an urban farmer?
Um, the desire to own my own business in food service. I wanted to specialize in a specific style of food where a lot of the ingredients and the food itself isn't available in this area. I grew up eating a lot of Gullah Geechee style food from my grandparents. They come from South Carolina, and I wanted to share that with this region where I was really born and raised. So one way to save money, cut costs, and to have that food readily available, it made sense to grow it myself. So I took the initiative to learn, and here I am.
Which products to grow, or which herbs and vegetables that you wanted to grow?
Well, at the beginning, um, when I was learning the scientific side of growing techniques and creating healthy soil, I gotta say I really took a lot of interest and curiosity and planted a lot of stuff that I just was seeing if I could grow it, how well I could grow it, and if I liked it. A lot of stuff I didn't even know if I really liked. I got a ton of free seeds and just went crazy with it. But throughout time, as I started developing interest in stuff that I could really make some money off of, I developed an overwhelming affection for peppers. I love heat, and I went crazy with the peppers. And recently, been going crazy with basil, and now I grow 20 different varieties of basil, in which I in turn ended up making a product, basil lemonade. So I'm really going ahead with that.
Okay, go ahead and show us some what you got going on
All
there.
right, as far as the food service and me falling in love with peppers, it came hand in hand because one of the seasonings that I plan to use a lot of is paprika, with and that's to either relish uh, and or what's the word, accent some dishes, or just season meat. So these are paprika peppers. I have 6 varieties right here: ají dulce, Elma paprika, luteschauer paprika, Uruguay seasoning, um, super shepherd, and Grenada seasoning pepper, and what's the other one? Yeah, Uruguay seasoning. Um, so I plan to grow these, dry them, and grind them into a powder. I also have a crop of fish peppers across the street that a business asked for, but I also plan to grow myself the fish pepper, and I was gonna dry those and grind those for a white paprika for seafood and fish dishes as well.
Okay, so you expanding it.
Yeah, I'm expanding, man, because I guess word started to spread about my my craziness for peppers,
Right.
and a few businesses, local businesses, got a whiff of it. Shout out to Corey McDonough from Seeds Food Truck, vegan food truck, for giving me this opportunity to provide him with some product, and Miss Miss Evelyn. I don't remember her last name, but she has a Ghanaian food service also that requested hot peppers. So I have a crop of Scotch bonnet peppers over here, 7 varieties from uh, chocolate Scotch bonnet, Jamaican Scotch bonnet, all the way to West African Scotch bonnet. And over here is the basil. This is about 6 different varieties over here. I have lettuce leaf, lemon, lime, Genovese, uh, cinnamon, I said blue spice, luch, I can't even remember the name, but it's 6 varieties of basil that I planted over here. I have some dill, and I also have some mint that I traded. Mammoth basil is the other one I was trying to think of. So,
Run them through one more time. Nice and loud.
okay. Cinnamon basil, blue saber, lettuce leaf, mammoth, lemon, and lime. I have some mint right here also that I just planted. I traded someone for some seedlings. I also have Thai sweet basil coming up. As you can see, the seedlings coming up in these. Thai sweet basil. Also some lemon drop basil, which is different from the lemon. It's a little more stronger. And Mrs. Burns lemon basil. And I also have another Thai variety called Siam Queen. So they're coming up rather quickly because I just put these seeds down maybe 3, 4 days ago. You see the seedlings coming up already. So I'm kind of hyped about that. So everybody, since last year, um, when I started growing the basil, I just was interested in a bunch of different varieties, and I chose to dry them and store them to use for cooking. But I'm not complaining, but me being able to create healthy soil because I do grow in containers, so I do have the opportunity to control the the ecosystem within the container, and I make some rather healthy soil. So the basil was growing very lush. I mean, prolific as I don't know what. I'm cropping and pruning like at least sometimes twice a week. And I couldn't dry all of it. I didn't have the space to dry all of it. So I had to figure out something else to do. And, fortunately enough, a festival was coming up. If anybody's familiar with Duran Chavis, he has a festival every year called the Happily Natural Day. And I participated in that. So I came up with something real quick. I said, let me see if I can make a beverage with it. Found a basic recipe for basil lemonade, and made a blend with the varieties that I had, and made a simple syrup and created the lemonade, and it's been running ever since then. I went to the Richmond night market about 5 months last summer, and from summer to fall, and that went rather well also. I never came home with anything I went to the market with, so that was a good thing. And then in my last farming class of the year last year, a member of my class had came to the night market and tasted the lemonade and pulled me aside after class one day and asked me to make 10 gallons of the lemonade for his wedding reception. I was sold after that, so
Yeah.
I'm trying to go hard with it this year.
So while we right here,
Hmm.
explain to us the soil and what you do to the soil. Don't give away your secrets, but
No, it's
just
not.
some
It's
basic
not a
stuff.
secret because I mean you're gonna learn that if you have the right teacher. Fortunately, I had the right teacher that really taught me the importance of soil health.
Hold
Because
up.
without a healthy soil, you're not gonna have anything. You're not only gonna not have healthy plants, you might not even get what you're growing for. If you have something that produces fruit, you might not get any fruit. You might get very little fruit. You might have very poor fruit. Um, this is basically grown for the foliage. So as you can tell, it's getting rather lush. The rain does help, but the soil plays a significant role.
So give us a breakdown of what you use,
All right, what I use in my soil, especially in containers, what helps with
or
water
what
retention.
someone trying to get started. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, number one is peat moss. Peat moss will help maintain moisture inside of the container, being that it's above the ground. It will dry out quicker than something planted in the ground. So to help keep the moisture and maintain some type of elasticity in the soil, also peat moss, topsoil, and one of the most important components, compost. I make my own compost. I usually keep 2 piles of compost in my yard at all times. I just finished my first pile that I started last summer to plant a lot of this stuff, and I use the components of my compost is primarily grass clippings, leaves that's raked up during the spring, and I get other components from 3 businesses within the neighborhood. I get eggshells from the bakery. I get fish heads and scraps from the fish market, and the local church has a food pantry twice a week that gives me all the picked over and refused produce, and I use all of that and combine that and make my own compost. Um, Another
So what is compost though? What is that? Is that like fertilizer? What is
compost
it?
is basically a natural fertilizer. Just look at it like this: when you see leaves on the trees in the warm season, the way that they get their energy is through the leaves. The leaves are soaks up the sun and the energy from the sun. When the fall comes, that energy falls to the ground. We either rake it up or just let it break down into the ground. It's nothing but stored energy. So I get that when they're brown, they're basically considered carbon. Grass clippings and vegetable and fruit scraps are considered green, which is nitrogen. You combine those together with moisture, and you will get an automatic quickening breakdown of the physical components into a nice, fine, dark, crumbly substance, and they call it compost. Compost is very nutrient rich, and it also has very essential macro and micronutrients that are essential to plant growth.
So do you also use fertilizer or just that?
I do use fertilizers, but the crazy thing about it, one of my top fertilizers is actually making a tea from the compost. I would take the compost and put it in a bag or a stocking, tie it up in a knot, and let it steep in rainwater. I water everything I grow with rainwater collected, from storm drains from the house, and I will steep the compost in the rainwater for a couple of days, and I use that. I also use Epsom salt, which will provide magnesium and sulfur, and that would help your plants absorb more from the sunlight than without it. Um, Worm castings is another component that some people like to add. I have in the past, but my compost has become so crazy that the worms come up and multiply inside of it on their own. So I'm getting free worm castings. I don't have to buy anymore. I can just peel it back and just see clusters of worms all throughout of it. This is a fresh pile, so they haven't gotten up in this one yet. And if I was to pull that back, you probably would get sick to your stomach, because
Yeah.
I got a lot of fish heads and guts in there right now.
Yeah, I've heard fish is key to growing
Yeah,
fish.
and I mean, you can basically use any fish, but the one that you really want and that you will see in a lot of fish emulsion and fertilizers is sea fish, because they have a lot of essential macro and micronutrients that freshwater fish just don't have.
So that leads us to our next question.
All right.
How do you treat for weeds and insects?
Well, insects are basically considered a pest. I guess some people that are new to growing, like I was at one time, would think that you're not supposed to have any insects on your plants, which is not true. There are a lot of beneficial insects, and some that come around to help rid you of the actual pests. But back to what I was saying earlier, if you have a healthy soil, you will have a healthy plant, and a healthy plant will defend itself against many diseases and pests as well.
What?
Um, Go ahead.
No, I was just saying what?
Yeah, it's just like how if we eat properly, we will be able to fight off disease and have a strong immune system. The same with the plants, and I can say for the most part, if you don't have a healthy soil, it's a crapshoot. Well, as far as the fertilizers that I use, if anybody's wondering what specifically, as far as the name brand or whatever, I'm not gonna throw any name brands out of here, but I do get.
Just give me. I know it's like with fertilizers, it's the ratios and all that type of stuff.
Yeah. Well, all of these measure the same. Per gallon of water, you would want to put a tablespoon of Epsom salt, a tablespoon of fish emulsion. These numbers right here are N, P, and K: nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Um, you would want a higher number when your plant is very young. A high number for nitrogen to help it get up to size, to help it at a regular rate to reach adult size or mature size to start producing. You would want a higher number of the middle once it starts, of the phosphorus, which is the middle number, to start on producing flowers. Therefore, flowers equal fruit. Um, on the other hand, these produce fruit somewhat. This is okra, but this is one of the exceptions. This and the beans over there, because they can really survive and really have a history of being able to thrive in partially dry soil, and can even withstand drought and do rather well and still produce a high yield. Over here I have speckled butter beans. Okra, by the way, is one of the staples that I grew up on in the house that I grew up in with my grandparents. And one of my favorites over here also is speckled butter beans. And I ended up finding some seeds for another variety that hails from Alabama called the Alabama black-eyed butter bean that I'm trying this year. I bought seeds for this year before last and never grew them. So now that I have the desire to really try to start this business this year and at least present some products, I said, why not grow some? So we're gonna see what it does. I have a little bit more space that's available that I'm gonna plant some more seeds in the coming week. But you wanna check out another spot?
I just answer one quick question.
Okay.
So how long have you been an urban farmer?
I've been doing this since 2016. I had my first. Well, I began studying in 2016. I really got started my first garden in 2017, and it was rather successful. At least I had the soil part down packed, especially with the components. I didn't get a large harvest of everything that I grew, mainly the tomatoes, the larger tomatoes, and that's one of the reasons why I don't grow large tomatoes anymore. Um, and they're really not necessary. I would deal with something maybe a little smaller than a beefsteak size. My favorite tomato is Cherokee Purple, but I'm doing a lot of paste tomatoes for sauce this year and red rice. So cherry tomatoes very prolific. I had a ton of cherry tomatoes that year also. The peppers went crazy, and I guess that's probably part of the reason why I fell in love. But I also grew some hot peppers that year. That was serranos, jalapenos, Thais, and habaneros. And those, I went crazy over those saved seed, and I used the seeds that I saved to grow the next year and been doing that up to now. That's another thing that I would like to express, the importance of saving seed, especially with all this craziness going on with these big companies trying to monopolize on owning seeds when all this stuff is free and grows natural. I would encourage any and everybody, if you're going to grow and you using, and I don't want to use this term organic because according to the government standard of what organic is, the definition has changed more than once in the past. So I just like to say old world practices without the use of any lab made chemicals to either enhance production, plant growth, or provide some type of protection against pest or disease, because it can all be done naturally.
Right.
But save your seeds, and you'll always have something to grow the next year. A lot of people like to be dependent on, and we've been really cultured in this country to be dependent on so much stuff. You know what I'm saying? So I think self-sustainability, which is another reason why I grow, is very much key.
Repeat that word one more time.
Self-sustainability.
Say it one more time.
Self-sustainability.
Yeah,
Is
that's a powerful word
yeah,
right there.
it's nothing like it, man. I'm gonna tell you, I remember doing it when I was a child, but me being grown now and can wake up or any
Yeah.
time of the day when I'm hungry and come outside and gather something and go inside and make me an entire meal. That whole uh, feeling of fulfillment is like none other, man. I know a lot of people know what I mean when I say that, but man, well, I can say there is a chart that can tell you what to plant when and when to plant it. But as far as the summer and spring crops, I can say a safe window is to really try to have everything you can in the ground by at least by the middle of June. The middle, or if you kind of dragging your feet or had some obstacles, by the beginning of July, because summer technically starts at the end of June, and many of these crops are uh, summer crops. But depending on the region that you live in, you can get an earlier start because it's warmer earlier, in the year. But I can say for the most part, I try to have everything in the ground by the beginning of June. Being that I have expanded and have more area to cover and have been involved in other things, I kind of don't have all of mine planted yet, but I'm sure I'm gonna be able to harvest everything. The latest I did last year behind doing the same thing, but I had intensively grown in this yard and I had multiple crops. I got everything in within the first week of July. I had to bring some stuff in when first frost came, but that was only peppers. And I was able to save seed. I grew 6 variety of eggplant last year, 4 varieties of ground cherries, 12 varieties of tomatoes, the 15 varieties of basil, and I say like 15 varieties of peppers. I had like 101 pepper plants from back here going all the way around the side of the house. But yeah, being that the businesses wanted something, I just had to make sure I separated the crops so nothing would cross pollinate, and I can be able to provide them with what they asked for through the seed.
So how did so that leads to when do you harvest?
For peppers, you can really start harvesting peppers in August. If you get them early enough, like late April, early May, you may be able to get them a little earlier. But if I get them in by June, I say within 2 months you can start expecting fruit ready to pick. And if your soil is right and your seeds come from a good stock and your plant is very prolific, I hope you have something to do with them or some way to store them already, you know, ready because they're gonna keep putting out fruit until frost comes and kills it. A lot of people like to overwinter their plants. I don't have the space to do that, so I have to start seed every year. But some people would have space and bring their plants indoors, like in a garage or something at least, and overwinter them. I wish I could do that because they get so big and so much more prolific year after year. Some of the Scotch bonnets that I got this year, the yellow and orange Jamaican, was actually mailed. The whole peppers were pictured. The lady took a picture of them as she clipped them from the plant. She put them in a box and mailed them to me. I got them 2 days later, and they came from a 7-year-old plant that she overwinters every year. She was down in Georgia. This is my first year growing Scotch bonnet peppers, even though they are related to habaneros, and I grow those every year. I'm really excited, and I've been gifted a lot of Scotch bonnet seeds of different varieties from members of a pepper lovers group that I joined on Facebook. And I'm just like a kid in a candy store this year with all these varieties, man. To be able to get what I wanted and get so much of what I wanted, I'm really thankful for that. Different macro and micronutrients to the soil, to and from the soil, that benefit each other. All right, what I have over here is one of my neighbor's yards. I'm growing in 3 of my neighbor's yards this year to help provide these products. And this yard is one of my personal ones for my business. Um, Being with the onslaught of COVID-19, the whole dynamic of what I originally had planned to grow somewhat changed. So it was ideal to grow a lot of food that could be easily stored, as in dry storage, canning, pickling, or whatever. So I decided to do a variety of peppers to pickle, make relish, and also cucumber. I haven't had the cucumber over here yet, but I do have a whole array of sweet and pickling peppers over here. Also some tomatoes for my neighbor who let me grow in her yard. I told her in return I would grow her whatever she wants, and she fell in love with my favorite tomato, the Cherokee Purple. So I'm growing her that as well. And I also perform a technique called companion planting. That's why you see some of the basil over here. Tomatoes love to be planted with basil and carrots as well, but this is not the season for carrots, so I have the basil over here. But right here I have sweet cherry, which is a sweet and hot pepper that I'm going to use for the sweet and spicy pickles. Hot bananas to help with the relish. This is a pepper called the Pippin's Golden Honey that I'm also going to use for the relish. Right here is the sweet pepper that resembles a jalapeno. It's called a tangerine dream, and another one called a lemon dream. They're sweet peppers. And to balance that out, I said I was going to use jalapenos, also actual jalapenos. So I have 4 varieties of jalapenos. These are the regular green early jalapenos, and these are 3 varieties of jalapenos that I felt kind of interested in year before last, but didn't get my hands on any seeds and ended up getting gifted by some. Pumpkin spice, lemon spice, and orange spice. And over here, hitting them to the side, is a Jamaican hot pepper. They look like little mushrooms. It's somewhat related to the Scotch bonnet, but it's not actually a Scotch bonnet, but it does have a citrusy, sweet, fruity flavor, just like a Scotch bonnet, but it's also hot. And over here, what I have recuperating in the shade is a sweet pepper called a Carmen and some chocolate bells that I'm also going to use for relish. I'm very happy. These are the Scotch bonnets, and I also have a group of Spanish habaneros. The Spanish habaneros are somewhat different from the Chinese habanero. They're both hot, they're equal in heat, same color, but look somewhat different. Um, that was my first Scotch bonnet. I ended up getting those seeds actually from Dollar Tree, Spanish variety of habaneros, and been cooking with them since then. This is the White House Pacific uh, Scotch bonnet. This right here is the chocolate Scotch bonnet. You know, if you ever hear about any hot peppers and you hear that there's a chocolate variety, I can very much assure you that's going to be the hottest version of that pepper. So I have a chocolate ghost. I grew a ton of chocolate ghosts last year and I saved seed. I got one that I'm growing this year. And I also have a chocolate habanero. I didn't put it over here yet, but I'm saving it for that red container that's over there under the tree. Um, she also has cinnamon basil planted over here, companion planted around another black tomato called Paul Robeson. That was one of the first tomatoes that I grew my first year also. These right here is it's called Papa Dreddy Scotch bonnet. This right here is these are the Jamaican Scotch bonnets. I got a few more of these at the house that I got to plant. They're not of size, they're not ready to transplant yet. These are the Spanish habaneros, and this is a variety that I was gifted called Safi Red Scotch bonnet. So the Ghanaian food service and also a local cook that's known in this neighborhood asked for some Scotch bonnets. So I'm happy to be able to share that this year. But I'm gonna save a ton of seed because if they are as good as I think they are, I'm gonna grow these every year also, like those Cherokee purple tomatoes. That's probably gonna be added to my list of favorites. I'm always gonna grow my favorites, simply not just because they're my favorites, but I know I'm always gonna be able to do something with them. You know what I'm saying? They're not only good, to put in your dishes, or they're just delicious. But I know if not anybody else can do anything with them, I know I could. What I would like to do is expand production with this, but I'm working with what I have this year. I'm gonna make it work. I'm gonna save a ton of seed, and next year, hopefully, if I have a bigger space or some more real estate to be able to work, I would like to provide just about every Caribbean or African, type of cuisine restaurant with Scotch bonnet peppers if they don't already have a source. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing beats local because local is fresh. You pick it, and it's readily available to be used like that. You don't have to wait for a shipment, none of that. And I make sure that everything that I grow is nutrient dense, so you're gonna get a quality product.
The best.
Almost the best.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say the best yet. I mean, I like to stay positive, but I ain't gonna.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna yap my chops too much.
Right. I see you've been naming a lot of names that I'd never heard of before.
Man, before I got them, I never heard of them either.
Are they still like normal ones? Or
Yeah, they are normal. The Safi Red and the Papa Dreddy, I believe, are probably crosses of a couple of strains that come from different regions of the world of the same pepper, and then they combine them and call them something. I haven't did any in-depth research on them, but I did do some Googling just to make sure that they were real varieties, and they were, and what they're used for, their taste and flavor profiles and what have you. I also have one more variety of Scotch bonnet, but they're not quite ready to plant as well, called the Antilles. I have a source with a lot of indigenous African crops in Orange County, Virginia. Gave me a lot of seeds for indigenous crops, which included Nigerian Lagos spinach, Kenyan thousand head kale, a bitter eggplant called boma, and another eggplant called African garden egg, and a Scotch bonnet variety that comes from Senegal and Ghana called an Antilles. And he just picked up 2 trays. He gave me 2 packs of seeds. I took 1 pack and started 2 trays, so that's over 150 seedlings. I kept 20 of them for myself. So I probably would plant maybe about 8 of them over here, and I probably sell the rest. So if anybody wants any seedlings, I guess we'll show the seedlings in a minute.
Yeah.
I'm selling those also, 3 for $10. Ready to transplant. Everything from tomatoes to peppers, eggplant. We'll talk. We'll
How
talk.
can they connect with you?
You can connect with me. I'm on Facebook, JD. Subcatching the Brothers Nature. It's a black and white logo of a black farmer that's spelled JAYDEE. 2 names, JD. That's my initials, John Dotson spelled out. And Instagram, the Brothers Nature 529. That's THEBROTHERSNATURE 529.
Is there any way to ship, or it had to be local?
I would prefer local. I'm not gonna say I'm opposed to shipping. That hasn't come. That opportunity hasn't arrived, or demand hasn't come for it yet. But I'm not gonna say that I wouldn't.
What about Cash App?
Cash App
No,
is
I'm saying you have.
yeah. I do have Cash App.
Okay.
Cash App is the $ Brothers Nature.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when was your first? When did you pick up your first customer, or like how did you take this thing from being a hobby or a passion, and then someone say, "Hey, I want to buy something from you," you know?
Yeah. Well, you talking about the plants, or you talking about what I
The
grew?
peppers.
The peppers.
Oh, and yeah, any of your
Well, I can say for the first time was the second year I grew. I like I said, I saved seed and I had so much stuff. I overseeded a lot just to make sure that I have everything that I wanted. Anything extra, I was planning to give away. And somebody said, "Hey man, why don't you sell them?" So I posted it on Craigslist. People started coming for seedlings. As far as some of the things that I've grown, people having a demand for, began last year, but that was only because I made products from some of the things that I grew. I'm involved with a nonprofit organization that establishes and maintains public growth spaces around the city, Beautiful RVA. You can contact them at beautifulrva.org. And the Happily Natural Day site is thenaturalfestival.com, ran by Deron Chavis, and we help maintain a lot of public growth spaces, and we've established quite a few. And in those spaces, as well as in addition to grow boxes and raised beds and growing vegetables and flowers, we planted orchards. And in those spaces, a lot of fruit went unused and just either hanging on the trees, falling to the ground, and just wasting away. So when we used to go do maintenance and manicuring some of the properties, I would pick the fruit, bring it home, and I jammed and jellied a lot of it and combined it with some of my hot peppers, and I called it sweet heat. Matter of fact, I just made some peach pie jam yesterday. This is one of my first batches that I didn't include a hot pepper in it. The first year I made 6 varieties, everything from pear jelly to sorrel jam that included a sweet fruit and a hot pepper. This year I had requests for some that didn't include that much heat or any heat at all, so I'm trying to supply that demand also. Later on today, I'm actually going to make some plum basil jam with my aunt. So this is
you
going
can try basil mint lemonade or tea.
Oh yeah, and the basil lemonade. Yeah, that will be available.
Like without the hot. You know
yeah, without the heat, and that will be available in the coming week or two. I'm going to carve some basil today to help promote more growth with my plants. As you can see, they had a little height to them. But to actually have them to start bushing out and producing more, I have to prune on a regular basis. I just wanted to wait for the rain to come and give it as much as it could get. And I'm going to make some simple syrup tonight when we make the jam. So I'm pruning some of that today. And I also have some mint drying in the house that I'm going to use for the simple syrup also. So it's going to be some basil mint tea and lemonade available within the next 10 days. Yeah. Seedlings that are available that I have right now is more basil. I have a variety called lettuce leaf, and this is a Genovese variety called Red Freddy. I have some sweet peppers, very few sweet peppers left. Carmen, a few paprika peppers, Super Shepherd. We're moving over to some hot peppers now. These are elephant trunk and some pepperoncinis. I grew 3 varieties of pepperoni this year also, Greek, Italian, and orange. These are fish peppers, and this is my favorite pepper to date right here. Hopefully the Scotch bonnet will change that, but these are padron peppers. I've grown and saved seed for these every year. I've been growing them since 2017. I just love the flavor. They're a great alternative in salsa, sauce, or whatever, and they can actually replace habaneros or jalapenos. The heat level is right in between the two, but the flavor is undeniable. Right here, I have holy basil. Over here, I have a mixture. Some of the compost that I use to start these seeds in this is actually a Thai sweet basil, but as you can see, it's a lot of regular sweet Italian basil in here as well, and those seeds were deposited by the plants that grew and were composted, because we also have a partnership with Virginia Union, which grants us access to their greenhouse, and everything you see out here was started at the greenhouse. So I used some of that compost to start my seeds, and that compost contained a lot of seeds that weren't broken down. So I had a lot of basil and tomatoes pop up in a lot of my seedling trays, and even in some of the cups of the plants as I transferred them to a larger container. Right here I have a few varieties that I didn't cup yet of eggplant, and there are more of them in cups over here. Black Beauty, the black bulb shaped ones you see in the grocery store. A smaller Asian variety called Malaysian Dark Red, Fing Yong, and Ping Tung Long Purple, Rosita, and Oswald. And I'm starting some more seeds right here for some more basil for a second wave. These right here are some more peppers that I have. Some of the specialty, the super hots. This is an ahi lemon drop. And also over here I have a ton of other varieties. Yellow Reaper, Carolina Reaper, and also California Reaper. Over here I have some tomatoes, some of the paste tomatoes that I plan to plant myself. 2 varieties of watermelon, 2 out of the 3. Crimson Red and Orange Tender Sweet. Here's a partial flat of Cherokee Purple, my favorite tomato. Big red tomatoes, which is an heirloom also, beefsteak size. Rio Grande, and some Paul Robeson black tomatoes. Over here is another one of my favorites. Well, I can say an interest, hopefully to be one of my favorites, is a hot pepper, which is sweet also, called a King Star Lemon Starburst, which was created by a guy that has a lot of Facebook and YouTube notoriety named King Star. And I wanted to try these this year to flavor some of the jams and jellies that I'm doing. So I'm going to harvest some more fruit maybe in the coming weeks, but I have like 10 pounds of jam macerated in sugar right now in the refrigerator, waiting to get jammed later on tonight. Over here I have some jalapenos ready to plant, some more hot banana, and some bush variety of cucumber. And these are ghost peppers. I also saved these from seed for the past 2 years, and I also have some bags of these in the freezer. I didn't use any of the saved seed that I had from last year. I actually was cooking something and I put a ghost pepper in some sauce that I made, and I saved the seeds out of it, and that's where these came from. So they actually keep well in the freezer also, for those who don't want to pick seed, because when it comes to those super hots, if you don't wash your hands very thoroughly, you're going to pay for it. You touch your eyes, your face. And these are eggplant also, the varieties I spoke of earlier. All the plants, like I said, are 3 for $10. If you want any, you can reach me at the Instagram and the Facebook addresses that I stated earlier.
Say it one more time.
Facebook.com/JD JAYDEE, The Brothers Nature, and Instagram, The Brothers Nature 529.
So let's just wrap it up. Give we thank you for your time today.
Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Give them the name again.
My name is John Dodson, and this is Cordelia's Haven. Hopefully it will be all in one location, but like I said, I'm in the city and I'm working with what I have, and I'm grateful for the opportunity.
Making it happen.
Yeah, man, trying, man. You know what I'm saying? It's work. I don't mind working.
Yeah, it's supposed to look, man.
Yeah.
Food in it.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying? Something you can use.
Something you definitely can use. And use year after year after year, for real.
Alright, so we thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, man. You're welcome.
Mr. Dodson. And until next time.